don't claim this to be a how-to because I've learned everything from YouTube as well. But it's just the way I'm going to try and explain how I'm doing the yard using Marklin K track. The effect I'm trying to get at is this example piece here, which I've worked up, the sort of darkish, brownish, greyish colour, and I now want to fill in this piece between the siding of the station and the yard lead, where the switcher will run up and down. So this section needs to be ballasted. The effect I'm trying to get at is that the ballast is the same height as the sleepers across the yard, so that only the rails are sticking up, which is the sort of effect you see. To fill up the space between the baseboard, or the surface here, and to sleeper level, slightly lower than sleeper level, I'm just using some cut out cardboard from cereal boxes and all that sort of thing. So I've cut these to shape to fit in, so that they will just cover the area. Okay, next step in the process, at least I'm using for ballasting a yard, is, and I don't see that much on YouTube, is I have this, you can get this ballast for gravel paper in large rolls. It's simply paper with a light ballasting on it, glued on, and you can cut that out, and I use that as a base for the ballasting. So I cut strips out to fit between the rails like this. I'll glue those down on top of the cardboard in a moment, and what that does, it gives a base and saves a lot on ballasting, because well, this area in between here, for instance, is this paper, and it saves a tremendous amount on ballasting. Otherwise, you'd have to cover this entire area with ballast. Now you only have to do the side bits along the rails, and in between just lightly sprinkle, and once you've painted over the top, it disappears almost. Okay, for ballast I'm using a mixture of various ballasts. I usually go for N scale, although this is HO scale. I go for N scale ballast, which is a little finer than general HO scale or O scale ballast. I think it looks a little bit more, it's a little easier perhaps to work with, and I think it looks, on scale wise, I think N scale ballast looks a little better with HO track than the medium or even rough. But that's just my opinion. A little bit. All I do now is spread out the ballast here on the side, or as it were, backhand technique here. So just spreading out the ballast. Also a little bit in the middle here. You notice just need a very small amount of ballast in the middle there, because that'll be coloured up with final painting and weathering. So a bit of a tedious effort, but now you can see the small amount of ballast here in the middle of the track with the ballast paper. It's almost disappeared now. So just a very tiny amount of ballast in the middle here to make it disappear. So I'll work on this a little further, fill it all up, and we'll come back in a moment. The question of, I use the dropper technique. I don't like spraying everything under the wet water, so I use an eyedropper and simply drop the wet water all over the area you're going to put the glue onto. not going to go near the point here, the turnout. I'm going to cross over. I don't know whether you can see that, we'll just check. Yeah, so I'm leaving the point. I'm not going to glue here. Do this section here where they meet around the mast of the overhead wires. So just liberally drop the wet water down. It'll spread out by itself pretty much. Okay, back. This eyedrop's perhaps a little small. The ideal bottle would be a contact lens fluid. I think Chessie Fan 2 use that. That's a little bit bigger than this, but this keeps me to smaller sections that I get bored with ballasting. 50% white glue. Also I have a little dropper bottle. Small bottle of white glue. Oops. No, that wasn't. Looks like it was stuck. Okay, here we go. Just spreading it around. Again, using a dropper. It'll spread out by itself. So that's down one section, now the other section. So there we have the complete area with the 50% solution, all nice and white. Soak in and dry, and then we can go in and weather. Okay, here you see the next step, the ballasting. We'll weather that a little later, but I first want to just weather the track by just painting it a dark brown, get all the shininess off it, so that we're just left with the shiny top section of the rail, as you would find on a real railway. The rust would be at the sides, and only the top would be shiny. Just take a rag and get the paint off the top. So that's a little bit of track weathering done. Okay, a little further on, this is the yard lead that has been glued down. It's fixed in position. These tracks I haven't fixed them, won't fix in position for a little while, since I'm not exactly sure how they'll be eventually. That's why I'm only doing half of the ballasting between these two tracks, because I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to have here yet. But we can complete the yard lead to get a good impression of how that might eventually look on the rest of the yard. So we can now simply do the ballasting of the center of the track. Just pouring some ballast in down the middle. And some on the side here, which will eventually work in. And weather. I think that should be about it. I've got a couple of dry brushes, a larger one to get the larger areas, and a smaller one for the smaller areas. Let's see how this spreads out first. Okay, it's going to take, I'll do a little bit of touching up, I won't bore you with that, so I'll turn off the camera and come back when this is more or less completed. Okay, smooth down the ballast, got most of it off the sleepers. Now we'll just go along with the wet water. And then with the 50% white glue. And we'll let that dry. Just wipe off any glue that might be on top of the rail. Checking here whether there are any pieces coming loose. And I'll just vacuum those up well before where there are a few, there are a few loose pieces of ballast. I'll just vacuum those up first. Okay, a bit of weathering with some dark brown diluted, and just lightly with a brush lightly start darkening everything. I may go over it with an airbrush afterwards with a light with a greyish tint perhaps. I'll just see how this works out first. Alright, I'll get on with that. It's pretty boring, and show the result when it's done. Okay, so this is the ballasted yard lead now, with some weathering, a little bit of greenery between the tracks. The idea is to get a used look and just have the shiny rails sticking out. This is what you normally see in the yard. So reasonably happy with it. May want to go over it once more with an airbrush once it's all in place, but it's roughly the idea I'm looking for. Okay, I've got the yard shunter going over the tracks. Okay, a close-up look. As the shunter leads down the yard lead here. So free area of the tabletop here. This is a piece of ballast paper, gravel paper, and again the fine surface you can rub off the bits and pieces. So if you're going to put that under a turnout, what I do is I use the diluted white glue and just glue all the way all around the surface. Make sure every bit has got some glue on it. And this is diluted, I'd say about 50% white glue water and with a little bit of detergent in there. So that's now all, has got a coating of glue on it, and I'll let that dry for a day or so, and that fixes the grit, the fine material that's on the paper fixes in place. This becomes also a little firmer, and then it can just slide under a turnout for the ballasting of the turnout. A pre-prepared piece of ballast paper. Again, gluing down the fine material on top. Cut it to size, and I just shift it under under the mechanism, the moving parts of the turnout. So these are the moving parts here, and this now I need to ballast then up to here, and ballast up to here, so this area can be completely free of any ballast material, but you still have the impression that there's ballast between the ties because of the pre-prepared paper. This is a double slip crossing. You can see here the paper underneath, and here's where the ballast ends, and by painting it a little bit you can looking it up a bit more closer. Here it's ballasted, and here it isn't. This remains completely free of ballast, but if you look from above, you can still see the ballast paper coming through, and so it gives the impression that it's ballasted. Anyway, that's the way I do it. Everyone's got their own method, haven't they? Great hobby. Bye.